I'd like to welcome you to the Monday, June 16th regular Commissioners meeting. At this time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Brooks Matthews if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and our prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Our Father, we do thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity we have to come together to discuss the affairs of our county. We just ask you'll be with us. Give us your grace and your mercy. Help us as we discuss and decide the path forward. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, this time we would consider any additions or deletions to the published agenda.
Make a motion to approve the published agenda as presented.
All right, motion have been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion?
With amendments. We did have a couple of amendments that are located there in red.
Does that include the amendments, Mr. Jaggers?
They were not in the, were they?
They're highlighted in red on the first page.
Oh, yeah, they're fine.
All right, so your motion is, you're amending your motion to say and the adjustment, amendments.
I said as presented.
Okay, good enough. We got a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Clerk. Okay, item number 4, the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion have been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Clerk. All right, now it's time for item number 5, our public comment period. For those of you who have not been here before, you can speak up to 5 minutes. We will not tolerate any profanity or personal attacks. Is there a moment of privilege? Is there a Donna Waldron here? They sent an email earlier wanting to speak on a particular topic, a rezoning issue. Are you here, Ms. Waldron? Okay, good enough. All right, at this time, Mr. Stephen Reeves from Bun Level. Are you here? Yeah, I guess not. We'll move on to the next one. Mr. Larry Mitchell.
Good evening, Commissioners, County Manager. I didn't have any notes to put together. The topic I'd like to talk about today is the county's energy program and what happens when we no longer have these sources of power. In specific, I'd like to talk about electricity. Electricity is used by every resident in this county. Here in this building, we're using electricity, and every asset of county government is using electricity. 911 call center, the sheriff's department or sheriff's office, hospitals, all use electricity. I'd like to commend the emergency services on harnett.org reference to the material and information that they have online. They have a concentration of natural disasters. And when you look at natural disasters, they come in forms of hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and so forth. It brings, sometimes it brings the power down, and we're down for short periods of time. And like western part of North Carolina, we had power down in that area of the state. I like to change my focus to man-made power, and if we have a EMP, electronic magnetic pulse, from our foreign enemies, we could be in dire straits. It could be down for 3 days, it could be down for a month, or it could be down for years. Newsmax.com, Newsmax News had a documentary on powerdown.com. It's called griddownpowerup.com. It brought to light what we have for electricity. We have 3 major grid zones in the United States. Last year, we came within 2 minutes and 15 seconds for one grid zone to go down, and it cascades to the other grid zones. And that's in the western part of the United States, and Texas is the other grid zone. And what it was is vegetation growing up a power line and crossing over, and they had to repair that and change out the transformers. Our sub-power stations in our county, the transformers are the most important thing that we need to safeguard. They are expensive, they're made in foreign countries, and it takes a long time to replace them. So if we look at 3 days of no electricity and we have an EMP, your vehicles don't work, your generators that you have for the schools don't work, and you're not going to bring them back because they're fried. We need to look at that in our emergency services in these man-made disasters, short-term and long-term. We really need to inform the public what to do, because when the grid goes down, our neighborhoods are dark. Crime will go up after 3 days when your stomach is empty. Most vulnerable are poor, our health issues, seniors, and all those that need medication and food are subject to pain, and it's going to come. So we need to look at our county services for when it comes to electricity. It's very important. Outside, we have the monitors showing emergency services talking about natural disasters, but we need to look at man-made disasters. It's very important. Our vehicles go down, transportation will be zero, and commissioners won't be able to come to this building from your homes unless you ride a horse. So it's very important that we start looking at this. They showed on this documentary that they have a device that you can install on emergency vehicles, fire trucks, police, that will protect from an EMP, and they're very inexpensive. We need to look at those devices. But I'd like to see Mr. Larry Smith, I know he's here, to start looking at this and draw up some plans and inform the public on what to do when we have a man-made disaster like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Alan Longman.
Hello, my name's Alan Longman. I'm from 214 Hamilton Road, Bond Level. Reason why I'm talking today is that I hear that you're building a detention center with health. I love that. You're building health offices and stuff. I just have one question. If you're expanding in that area of health, I'd like it to be under someone other than the sheriff, and maybe someone from the sheriff's department could be placed ahead of that independently. Because you had problems with the detention center you had here, is that you had people die within the detention center who died from overdoses. And you had people who were caught selling drugs during that period of time and were never prosecuted for the deaths of the people who got the drugs inside the jail. I'd like to make sure there are cameras in there. I'd like to make sure that there's some sort of people watching over the money if it's going to be spent on a healthcare. I am for healthcare completely, but I have my doubts about how efficiently it's going to be run and how well it's going to be run. There's a problem within our jail systems. We have 100 counties, 100 county jails. We have prisons. I know for a fact that a lot of these prisoners are telling me, and inmates, are telling me they're made to sell drugs within the institution. And the problem with this is there's nothing to really oversight what's going on in the prisons. You had the sheriff here sit there and say he couldn't stop drugs from coming in because all these helicopter things and all that were dropping drugs off. Well, if you can't protect a detention center or a jail, how are you going to protect the community? And the problem with that is you need some oversight on whether or not the drugs are going to be resold to the people in the jail, which what good is the system going to be? Healthcare, you're just going to be making money keeping people in and making more money off the same people. They're not going to get treatment. They're going to still be on drugs because they have access to it. And there are so many prisoners that have said from our jail system here that they were given drugs. And the point is, it's got to be stopped. You can't be helping and treating people with drugs and have someone oversight both the drugs possibly going into the jail and the treatment of the people who are being there. They need to be separate. I don't mind Sheriff's Department had a separate division that was independent of the present sheriff and had someone put into charge that is trustworthy enough to handle that. That's my concern. I love the idea of health care, but I do know by what I've listened to with the prisoners here and other places and even in prisons and jails that they're getting drugs from law enforcement and people hired by law enforcement. And what good is having a system that you're supposed to be taking care of people if you're selling drugs from within? So the point is, you got to address that problem. You got to have oversight on the money, which I don't see. One man controls all the cards, whether who gets the contract, who doesn't get the contract, whether or not he agrees with what the treatment is or not. If he has any problem with the money being spent wrong and they were to complain about it, they'd lose the contract. There's no oversight, and I want oversight for this because it is important, but you need accountability for this. Thank you.
Would you pass that down to the clerk, please? All right, the next item on the agenda is number 6, public hearing for proposed zoning change plan 2505-0001. The applicant is Blissful Properties and Realty LLC. Well, Sarah, the floor is yours.
All right, well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here before you all this evening. Our case tonight's plan 2505-0001. This is a requested rezoning from the RA40 zoning district to the commercial zoning district. The applicant is Mr. Hunter Winstead of the Morningstar Law Group. The property is approximately 1.96 acre property located along US 401 North in Fuquay in the Hectors Creek Township. So the property can be described as a vacant, unimproved site, which was formerly used for agricultural purposes. This property is bounded by the railroad right-of-way on its western property line. Surrounding land uses of the property consist of single-family homes, a storage facility, a religious structure, a memory care facility, and agricultural activities. Next, we'll review the infrastructure services available for the property. There's public water available. However, public sewer is not available at this time. Property will have to rely on private septic for waste disposal. Next, we'll review the transportation details. So this section of US 401 sees about 10,000 daily trips. The section of Piney Grove Rawls Road is about 11,000 daily trips. The site distances can be described as good to fair. There is a curve on US 401 just to the north of the intersection that does impact the site distance there. So to address the question regarding the timeline for the installation of the traffic signal at the Piney Grove Rawls Road and US 401 intersection, staff did reach out to the developer, the Serenity Community, and they stated that construction of the signal is planned for fall of this year. Next, we will take a look at the zoning district compatibility map. Thank you. As you can see, there is commercial zoning, which is a requested zoning district located just to the south and to the east at the intersection of Rawls Church Road and US 401 North. Next, we'll take a look at the land use classification compatibility map. This map shows that the property is located within a commercial mixed use land use designation. These are areas which are located along major roads and include a mix of commercial land uses with residential uses as well. So the requested rezoning is compatible with the underlying land use. Staff has provided several photos of the site, the road views, and the surrounding land uses for the board to review. Next, we'll move through the evaluation. So as we were evaluating the requested rezoning, staff was able to answer everything in the affirmative. Staff found that the subject property is located in an area that's characterized by a mix of residential and commercial land uses, that the requested zoning district is compatible with the underlying land use, and that the uses permitted under the proposed zoning district would be appropriate in the area. So staff is recommending approval. At the planning board meeting, the board did vote 5-0 to recommend approval of the proposed rezoning. We did have 2 residents who attended our meeting and spoke in opposition of the proposed rezoning. The residents expressed concerns mainly related to traffic congestion issues and public safety. So that's all for staff, and I'm open for any questions. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for staff? Ma'am?
I have a question,
Well, all means, go ahead.
because I know the area. I know that the railroad track is pretty close there. And I know you're not allowed to tell us what you're gonna build there. But I don't like it, I don't like this, because it's very congested there. We just got, in the last year, a stoplight there, just down below there, to relieve some of the traffic, but the traffic is still bad. The traffic is real bad coming out on Rouse Church Road. So I don't see this being a commercial lane. I'm just being very honest. Been traveling the road for many years, and I know the area really well. So I know that you can't tell us what you're gonna build there, but that's not my saying. I don't see how your board approved this. We need commercial, but we need to think about the safety of the citizens too. I don't see that property where it is, the railroad track, the intersection and all of that. I don't see that being very safe.
Yes, ma'am, and I, noted your concerns. It's understood. We do have the applicant is here as well, and there may be some questions too that you could maybe pose to him that could
Okay? Thank
help
you.
answer that. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any more questions for staff? Okay, this time, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, anyone who would like to speak on behalf of this rezoning, please come forward.
Good evening, Commissioners. Hunter Winstead from Morningstar Law Group, representing the applicant Blissful Realty. I'm somewhat old school, so I've brought some handouts. Would it be okay if I handed out the handouts of our presentation?
That'll be fine.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to meet each of you. It's my first case in Harnett County, which I'm very excited about. I think this is a great opportunity to have a commercial use right at the entry from Harnett County, coming into Harnett County right on 401 from Wake County. I'll get into some of the very, very new future land use plan that gets to at these intentional spots to have these corridor gateway locations for commercial. And I really do think this site is a perfect location. And again, once I get through our brief presentation, Sarah did an amazing job. I'm really here to answer questions from the commissioners. I'll start. I'd like to introduce y'all to our team, which is this first slide. Ron Ramanujam is the manager of Blissful Realty. Dan Paps is our engineer, who we just retained about a week and a half ago. We're in the very, very early stages. Thank you so much. Great. Oh, perfect. Can everybody see the screen in front? Okay,
Yes,
great,
we can
great.
up here.
Thank you. You don't even need the handout in that case then, but you can look at both of them. Dan Paps is our engineer, and of course, I'm the land use attorney representing the applicant. Here's our aerial of our site, and it might be a little bit difficult to see the site, but I wanted to zoom out a good amount because you can see up in the top right corner is Wake County, so this is just barely across the county line, but there's our site highlighted in blue. So here's an overlay of the current zoning map. You can see that the current zoning is the RA40, and we're requesting commercial. There's a few sites of interest that I think are important to look at. Some of them are very new. There's the self-storage facility that's right across Piney Grove Rawls Road, and then the memory care center that's kind of diagonal across 401. What I think is really telling about this current zoning map, and again, this was before the very new future land use plan, the story this tells to me is you start to see in red these commercial sites that paint this picture of a corridor coming in from Wake County down 401. And you can see the commercial development that's happening right there to introduce the folks coming down 401 into Harnett County of these commercial uses. It makes sense when we have the very new future land use plan that this area, and you can see in the bottom right corner here, our site being right smack in the middle of this corner, that the good people of Harnett County have decided makes sense for this to be a commercial mixed-use district. Some of the key factors here, and I've just highlighted in the bottom left, are located along major roads, 401 being a major road, and medium to large scale residential, or medium to large scale retail services, restaurants, offices, and other businesses are the types of things that the land use plan says we would like to see in this orange area. So you may be wondering, why is rezoning appropriate? I see two major reasons. One being that this rezoning is reasonable, and the second being that it's in the public interest. To the reasonableness point, I really see three main things I'd like to highlight for y'all. First, it meets a need. The future land use plan that's very newly minted, and these are some quotes from it. There's a need for commercial development and business growth in key locations to encourage a balanced tax base. So that's a policy determination that was very recently made. Second, as I kind of alluded to earlier, there's a need for this gateway type of investment. And I'll just read the quote from Strategy 4C. The idea is to encourage investment on potential commercial corridors that will serve as gateways into the county. And I would posit that this is the perfect site for that, to serve as a gateway, an entryway into Harnett County coming in from Wake County. It's just across the county line. And of course, and probably most importantly, is the consistency with this land use plan that's very newly minted. Strategy 4A is to encourage commercial and retail development in non-residential and mixed-use areas identified on the future land use map, which this site sits directly in the middle of that mixed-use center designation. So that's all the first reason as to reasonableness. For the public interest, this really is just a common sense application, in my opinion, that will serve the public interest, not just in the folks that live around this area, but also all the folks traveling on 401. And to Ms. McCoy's question, we're in the very early stages of figuring out what makes sense on this site. As you mentioned, that railroad really is tight, and it's kind of a strangely shaped site, which means that there's not going to be any sort of large commercial development here. We're talking about a neighborhood retail, medium-scale commercial operation here. It's really not the type of thing that's going to generate a significant amount of traffic. What seems to make sense to us is to have a commercial building here that serves the people that are already traveling on 401, and to serve the folks that live pretty near to the area. So again, it's not going to be this giant development that's generating a large amount of traffic. So the two main reasons why I think this application makes sense is it's reasonable and in the public interest. I'm happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have.
I noticed on the map, it does not appear that you have road frontage on Piney Grove Rawls Road, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, and so I think, so our curb cut, and I'd spoken with one of the neighbors, one of the representatives of the church, and after talking with Mr. Paps, our engineer, does this have a laser pointer on it by chance? I don't know, you can't see it. So I wish I could zoom in, but our curb cut will definitely be onto 401. And DOT is probably going to require it to be more along the southern side to get us away from that intersection. And again, all of the traffic engineering will take place at the site plan stage, and our goal is going to be to make this intersection, this operation, as safe as it possibly can. That is a very, very high priority for my client and for our engineering team. And so I'll try to address any engineering questions I can. I'm not an engineer, I'm just a lawyer. But I've talked with Mr. Pabst, and he hoped to be here. He had a family emergency come up, and he said if we need to call him, we can call him. But I hope I can answer any questions that I can there.
I have just one question.
Of course.
Your company, the company you represent, how long have y'all owned the property?
I believe they purchased this property a month and a half ago or so. It was definitely in 2025.
Was it purchased from another business entity or individuals?
I am not sure. I don't want to speak out of turn there.
Okay.
Well, I have comments to what you just said. This is not a reasonable area for commercial zoning. I know the areas north, know the areas south. And with that railroad track being through there, and with Rouse Church Road intersection there, you should see the traffic that travels that road and come out on 401. I had a hard time talking with and lobbying with DOT to even put the stoplight up there. So I don't see what you're telling me. It's not reasonable. Is there no way you can make it reasonable? I don't care how small the business is, how large the business is. For the neighbors that live in that area, I just can't. I cannot vision. I just can't vision. No way I can vision.
I appreciate the comment very much. It's certainly a valid point. I'll say for us, for us land use attorneys and for developers, our North Star when we're proposing these rezonings is to look at what the future land use plan shows. The future land use plan is the county and towns, depending on the jurisdiction, communicating to the property owners what the county would like to see in that area. And this area is designated as commercial mixed use. And so when we bring applications to y'all, that is what we look at to determine what is reasonable and what's in the public interest. And so certainly a valid point, Ms. McCoy. I appreciate it. But I just want to explain to you where we come from when we propose an application.
I understand, but you got to understand where I come from.
I certainly do.
I come from representing the people here and the safety of those people that travel that highway. And I just don't see it right.
Okay. Anything else for this gentleman? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Ma'am, I believe you were next.
I was going to oppose.
Okay, anybody else to speak for this issue? Okay. All right, seeing none, hearing none, I'll move on to anyone want to speak against this issue. I believe you were first.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ms. Tanya White Anderson. I'm from Linden. I'm an advocate. Through all the chatter that was going on in reference to this, I guess what they're trying to do, your slides were nice, but it didn't show nothing. I literally went out there, and I'm saying this, it's so narrow. 401 is not that big on both sides, and you all are trying to come down and make a cut. You also got to give this county so much.
Ma'am.
And sorry.
Ma'am, if you would address the board, please.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The county has to have so much to cut the grass, and then there's someone else's property on the other side. So I'm asking if you all can ask the people on the other side if they would like to purchase some of that territory, because that's what they did for me. There's a small little strip behind my house. They at least give me the courtesy to let me see if I want to purchase it. I don't know what business might be demonstrated as far as in that little cut, but the VA in Durham Any businesses that they send us, be it veterans, they send us that way. I am always late for my appointments, and I leave an hour early, and there's so much congested area, within that part, especially when you turn. Then there's a railroad track right before that, and then it's a slope for the schools. Then you have, honestly, there's so much land before you even get to that. Consider looking at that. But you're taking a small strip to try to build what, a gas station? They got enough of that. You try to what, build a store? You won't be able to do parking lots. I mean, let's think. If it's greed, I understand. But let's take care of the residential people within that area. And when y'all start building, it's going to be really congested. And I'm not going to go all the way around, and I'm finding a neat way. I'm just saying, as the commissioner, she stated, people coming out, it's dangerous. And we are here about safety. That is unsafe. So there's property down below before that. Consider that. But leave these people residential area alone, because people are upset. And I'm going to be honest with you. You get behind my back door, you ain't getting no business nowhere. So you don't want to put a negative light on whatever business you all are trying to establish. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam? Get to you. Just
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Margaret Morton. I live at 86 Gwendolyn Way. I am a commuter through that area. I do live 3 miles up the road. I will say that we were here a couple years ago over the property on Rawls and 401, and Jonathan Tucker, had to wait a couple years until there was a light put in. However, he gave us a little bit more insight on his plans once he reapplied. The first time around, you guys turned him down because there wasn't a light there. It was very unsafe. Once the light was installed, he came back and he gave a good explanation. I personally spoke to him on the phone, and he told us what the plans were, which is a mixed use, a little shopping strip, or, some commercial. We do need commercial. But that piece of property there, the way that it is wedged, where it's situated, even with a traffic light at that intersection of Piney Grove and 401, it's going to be dangerous. And the railroad track and the way it's there is absolutely no safe way. Even if you do an entry and exit further south of that property, we're only talking about 1.92 acres. If you go to Fuquay via Piney Grove, Rawls, or 401, that is a game of Frogger trying to get there. You have people that are turning right from Piney Grove, also turning left, and all the traffic coming from Fuquay and the other way around. It is very hazardous. So I cannot see a commercial rezoning being approved here. I would definitely advise against it. It is not safe. The other thing that is my concern is there's a lot of flipping of properties when it comes to commercial, and no site plan was submitted with this application. We do not know what they're going to build there. So the pitch was nice, and I understand you represent your client, but that client may turn around and sell it. And we have no idea what's going to go there. We've already seen rezonings that have been done in the county, and even years later, we've been sacked with something that was not healthy for the community or in the best interest of the community. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Long. Let me say this and remind everybody, make your comments to the board. Okay. Mr. Winstead's here representing his clients, so you can make them to us or it won't happen. Now, what was yours, Mr. Long?
Yes, I'd like to say that the building and expanding of the building that's done along the road doesn't make sense to me. My brother is one of the top people in zoning and building and planning in the country. And he was actually supposed to do the one for the German company over here by Apex. But anyway, The problems you run into, and you see everywhere, is the congestion. And we don't know what buildings are going there, so we don't know what the infrastructure needs to be. We need to know that before approval, as far as I'm concerned. Are they adequate for the people's needs? Are they what people want from Wake County that are coming down here? The other thing is, it seems like a long-term building thing. And what bothers me is that in my days, I've seen giant complexes of developments that went into a desert. They virtually stopped because the money stopped. Levitt had this problem in Florida. But you have these problems where the financing stops, you have all these buildings being made, and one, you don't know what the infrastructure is necessary for them, and second, you're left with a desert, including the fact that you were planning to have taxes from these establishments that because of financial reasons never came. Maybe they need to invest more on the infrastructure itself for these buildings and knowing what exactly is going there. You have time to do that. You don't have to make an approval for something now. Maybe some contingencies to find out what its financial backing is and make sure it's good. The average bank in the United States and also around the world is a D rating. That's the portfolio of debt. That's terrible. All right? If the economy goes bad, even a little bit, you're going to see an impact. And if you're building lots and lots of developments, that's going to take 4 or 5 years to do, commercial, if it's larger projects, then you're going to have to know that you're not going to be left with the mess that comes from it, that they have to be responsible for certain things, that they pay more for the infrastructure, so you don't lay out money first and have nothing coming in later. And I think the economy is that bad. Thank you.
And lady in blue.
Hi, my name is Donna Waldron, and I live in the Regalwood subdivision that's right off of this property. At the intersection of Piney Grove and 401 for the past 2 weeks, there has been a very large red bumper lying there on top of the public hearing sign for the first meeting, right, that you had on this property. And that is an apt symbol for what we're talking about tonight, because that intersection is a fender bender zone, right? Almost every night when I come home, there's somebody sitting on the side of the road exchanging their insurance card. And currently, if we were going home about now, I would have to wait for the kindness of strangers to allow me into my subdivision because it's backed up past Serenity all the way to Sneed Road every single evening. We no longer go back into Fuquay. If we want to go out to eat or we want to run an errand, we go almost to Holly Springs and cut back through because you cannot turn left at Piney Grove. Along 401, you know probably better than anybody that there are already 2 businesses that require almost constant police presence in order for those businesses to get out of their businesses. That's the Forever Clean and whatever it is behind the dollar store. Right? And we also know that from the Piney Grove intersection, in a mile or 2 in either direction, there's a dollar store and a gas station. So I have no doubt that this area is going to go more commercial. But we need Piney Grove intersection for 401 to come first. And if you look at the angle on those pictures, the prime real estate agent for this group really should be the DOT, because that whole intersection needs adjustment. It's going to need a turn lane. It's going to need some significant expansion. The kind of business that's already there, the storage unit, is kind of the perfect business because ingress, egress is very seldom. And it's nothing, there's not an exit period, if you will, or an entrance period. But we already have 2 of those right near there. I can't think of a business that does not require an entrance and a parking lot and people to go into it, right? So Kilibit Springs is already becoming the kind of business area. That's a giant headache as well. So I really think we need to get our roads in place and the safety of our roads in place before we consider anything in this location. Once we see that and the kind of expansion and turn lanes that are needed, then we might consider a better business option. But until then, we've just got nothing but danger. And the people are stacked up in that line waiting to turn. They actually look across that field to see when the break's going to come. And so it is a very dangerous intersection, and we ask you to fix that first. Thank you.
Okay. Hang on a minute, Larry. Let this gentleman in the back. Come on.
My name is Gary Smith. I am a member of Ross Baptist Church. I'm a deacon there, and I'm also a trustee. And the property touches our property. And we also have a hybrid homeschool there now. And so that property, our playground is on that end. We're on the northern end of the property. So the playground's going to be within, I would say, 100 yards of the property line. And it's used daily when the weather's permitting. But, and also Mr. Jagger, the land, from my understanding, I got a pretty good know, was bought from an individual. And, you know, how are they going to develop that property? How are you going to go north out of there? Are you going to cross turning lane, northbound, southbound? I mean, it's just going to be, you know, a nightmare. There's going to be wrecks after wrecks after wrecks. People, and I know DOT could make only right turns only out of there, from my understanding. But, you know, it's just a safety thing. And I'm not opposed to commercial development, but developing this property before that light's put in at Piney Grove Rawls is that's just hazardous. I mean, it don't make a lot of sense to me in doing that. Held off on the other side of the church on the Tucker land and that's, you know, with the light, we thank y'all for y'all's part of that light. I know why there's not a light at Piney Grove Rawls Road right now, because I was involved with the light at the church. $900,000 it went to put that light in at the church. I know, I was with the engineer, and I asked him how much it's going to cost, and he told me. By the time you buy right away, and there's already was turn lanes on 401. They didn't have to buy a lot of right of way, just some turnouts to get the turn lanes off onto Rawls Church Road. But and I know it's a money thing. I thought in the meeting with Brian Taylor with Serenity that or Greenfield was supposed to be a light ASAP when he was doing the developing. Now my understanding is sell 250 houses. Sell 250 houses before it's going to be put in. He's supposedly supposed to pay for that light in that intersection. Of course, obviously, if you know the intersection, you're going to have to change it a little bit to get light and turn lanes in there. But, you know, I just want to y'all to take a good consideration of making sure it's safe before, you know, you do develop that as commercial. Thank y'all for what y'all do.
Mr. Mitchell, wait patiently.
Larry Mitchell, 478 Century Drive down in Lexington Plantation. I'd just like to make a comment about this. I do drive 401 a lot, and I know where the location is. And if you look at the property, the position of that property, on the east you have 401, and to the west you have the railroad tracks. I don't know if the railroad tracks are used or not, but imagine if there's a accident with the railroad and how emergency services would get in and out of that property. That's a thing to consider. You got two major hubs on both sides of that property. I believe in enterprise. I like the revenues and I like the jobs, but location is everything. And I concur with Commissioner McCoy.
Okay. Anyone else who'd like to speak against this issue? Hearing none, seeing none, this time we'll close the public hearing. All right, is there any motions on the floor as it regards to this issue?
regarding this issue, well, my vote would be no, denied. Simply because I don't see it being safe there for the citizens. And I don't see, that there is enough land there to put a business there and have a parking space and all of that. I mean, I'm looking at the whole picture here. So my vote would be no. I'm make a motion that we deny.
Okay. Motion has been made. Is there a second? This time the chair will second for purposes of discussion. Okay. Is there any further discussion?
I think that, our land use plan, we put a lot of effort in that, and that should have been identified if it was going to be an issue. I understand what the attorney was talking about, that, that's what they go by, and it had been determined that it would be commercial, or should be commercial there. So I think if we're not going to ever allow that to be commercial, we probably should have addressed that during that land use plan. But I think that what I would like to see is that this issue get tabled long enough for us to find out about the stoplight, the status of the stoplight, because before I would vote it down, I would want to make sure that that stoplight is not coming in the near future.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
We have a motion on the floor
I'm
unless
just
the
telling you.
gentlelady wants to withdraw it.
No, I'm not withdrawing mine
Okay.
because I know the area.
All right, well, there is a motion on the floor that's been seconded. At this time, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of stopping the issue, say aye.
Aye.
All those against?
No.
No. Okay. Noes have it.
And I would make a motion that we table this issue until we can get some more information about the stoplight and the timeline and seeing what we can do about the traffic. Because before I would say no to this property, I would like to make sure there's not going to be a solution to get the road where it needs to be.
Okay. Motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Clerk. All right, we'll move on to item number 7. Discuss and consider approval of a vehicle disposition to assign title of transit vehicle 7593 to North Carolina DOT in order to maintain the Harts grant availability.
Good evening. Harts will like to consider and approve a vehicle disposition to assign title visit transit vehicle 7993 to NCDOT IMD in order to maintain Harts grants eligible inventory. And last week we was asked to send a proposal to Chris Legal, and we did, and we got the thumbs up. So we would like to replace 2018 lift-equipped transit vehicle with Harnett County's 2017 transit van that currently has 315,000 miles on it. So if we get approved to transfer the vehicle over to NCDOT, once it's final and accepted and confirmed replacement, the vehicle becomes eligible for requested replacement on the FY 2027 capital application, which is due in October 2025.
Mr. Chairman, based on the information provided from legal, I would make a motion to approve the vehicle disposition of title transit vehicle number 7593 to NCDOT IMD in order to maintain the Harts grant eligibility inventory.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Clerk.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, item number 8, discuss the Harnett County fiscal year 25-26 budget and consider adoption of the budget ordinance.
Got like a tag team going on up here. To get started, we've just made a few changes since we met last week, and these are pretty minor in comparison to things. The first one is a reduction for a system development fee for a 2-inch commercial water tap-on fee, and that's requested a decrease from $27,500 to $6,500. For emergency services, to increase the insecticide fogging and fumigation fee from $75 to $100. And then there was an additional allocation to 3 of the rescue districts for a total cost of $192,000. We also had just one minor adjustment to the Harnett County Schools. Sorry, I need some water. There's a $2 million increase for the continuation and a decrease of an expansion. The total amount remains the same. So our general fund remained at $195,698,342. The Harnett Regional Water and Solid Waste budgets remain the same. We were also asked to figure out what the allocation, this was a question that just came in last week. So staff was asked how much the general fund operating budget was allocated to county operations versus Harnett County schools. And based on the calculations, it's about 72% for Harnett County operations and 26.5% to Harnett County schools, and about 1.2% to Central Carolina Community College. So the appropriated fund balance still remained at a little over $20 million, which brought our estimated fund balance down to about 17.58%. And Kimberly's going to talk about the fund balance.
So good evening. So last week during our work session, one of the items that we had prepared to bring to you was a discussion of how an allocation of fund balance in this budget would impact our overall unassigned fund balance. So throughout the year, I give you the approximated fund balance if we closed our books. So building on the fund balance that we closed as of 2024, the unassigned fund balance at that time was at 33%. And keep in mind that the fiscal policy that you have indicates a minimum fund balance ending at the end of a fiscal year shall be no lower than 15% with a target of 20%, and then there is a defined disposition of anything over. So when we go into our CIP process in the early fall to kind of look at our capital needs, how we want to fulfill expansion requests due to the growth and the wishes of the board. One of the items that we look at is the appropriation of that excess fund balance. And over the last several years, I know that, Commissioner McCoy, I'm gonna use you. You've always asked, well, we're spending money. Yes, we are, but that is money that we have been setting aside for capital needs, such as, expansion of buildings, for debt service, for capital items that enhance not only the service to the citizens, but also create a solid position for the county. Because you've also heard us talk about over the last several weeks, we just issued about $89 million in debt, of which we'll only have to pay back $80 million. $9 million of that to build that Flatwoods was a premium, and that was due to the credit rating of the county. And the credit rating of the county is based on that reserve fund balance. So they rank us against our peers. And a county of our size, they consider us a AAA as far as our unassigned fund balance and our reserves. And we've worked very hard over the last 11, 12 years to get that to a level that is fitting of a county of our size, because if you'll remember, every time we have an emergency such as a hurricane or FEMA, I think Larry can attest to this, the FEMA money is very slow in coming. Matter of fact, I think I saw an email from Larry Friday. We just got was it Matthew? We just closed Matthew. So that again is the emergency, you know, we have to address the welfare of the county. I know we have an agreement, we work with the schools to have shelters there, but we also cover any of that food that's used. I mean, you know, and we pay all of that up front, and then we file for FEMA, and sometimes, you know, we get the money back, sometimes we don't. But basically, the uniqueness and what has allowed us to begin to be competitive, not only in that economic market, but as the economy grows as well, and competitive with other counties, has been our fund balance. So I was prepared to speak last week about the impact of this allocation or the use of fund balance against how it would be, and forgive me if I get a little tongue-tied. I've got a lot of information going on upstairs, so I'm going to try to get it out as best I can. But essentially, the fund balance is there for us to use in times of emergency, or, as your policy has pointed out, for one-time uses. So kind of going back on it, I remember when we had set the tax rate, we found out after we set our tax rate that the low wealth funding calculation, because of the way it's calculated, basically we found out that we were going to lose a portion of our low wealth funding. Well, I think a significant portion of it. And it was because our tax rate at the time was not high enough. And when you look at the formula, it takes into consideration the statewide average of all the tax rates. It takes into account, I think, population, sales tax, assessed values. It basically is a giant scorecard. And so in going back, had we, when we recalculated that formula in after fact, we realized, or we determined that had we put an additional 2 cents on that tax rate, on that revenue neutral tax rate, or the tax rate we adopted at 59.1, that we would not have lost our fund balance. So we allocated fund balance to kind of hold the schools harmless while the state kind of figured out that formula, with the understanding that, you know, we're working on it because of the property values and everything that had gone on. It was just, you know, it was something that no one saw coming. So fast forward to this year coming up, that is one reason why the appropriation of fund balance is so high. We're looking to use fund balance one more time to offset this, I guess, this low wealth. So that is why our fund balance is as large as it is. And I wanted to kind of point out to you also the impact of where our fund balance has gone. So typically our fund balance, we've appropriated anywhere from $3 to $4 million. So in 22, the fund balance appropriation was just over $3 million. For 2023, it was $4.3 million. In 2024, it was $4.985 million. For 2025, it was $11.18 million, and for 2026, it's proposed to be at $20,210,244, which is just at about right around a 200% increase. I am not opposed to the use of this unassigned fund balance, but I would request wholeheartedly that you create a plan of how we're going to work to restore these reserves. And with advice from the meetings that we've had with bond counsel, with the rating agencies, I have repeatedly pointed out at times when you've made policy changes and positive management decisions, how those rating agencies like to see the documentation of that in the minutes of your meetings. So if you do approve to pass this budget with an appropriation of $20 million, I would ask that you place in that budget ordinance a defined statement that I think we have prepared, and we'll have it available for you. But basically, it details out what brought us to the circumstances of where we are today, and the fact that, you know, even though this is not a one-time, it's limited to a 2-year because of the cycles and the way things have gone. And so then you will work to reestablish that reserve in future. So, any questions? That was a lot, I know, but.
In the plan that she's referring to in the budget ordinance, you have a copy of the draft budget ordinance in front of you. It's section 16. Don't have the page number, I apologize, but it's section 16 in the first part of that budget ordinance.
What page?
Or it's this one, it's the larger one?
The larger one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What page?
The big one. You don't know what page yet?
Probably easier to go to the back and.
I believe it's section 16, yeah, right here. So that's the.
What page?
16
On page 30.
is Page 30.
Page 30.
Page 30.
I don't know, did you? Need to.
So I think, the important thing that staff's trying to put out is that we can do this. It's within the policy as far as not going below 15%, but with our desire to continue to maintain our proper bond rating, we need to make a plan in order to go up to 20%. And so this is basically stating to the bond agencies that we will be looking at a plan next year when the reval comes to help to rebuild our fund balance up to 20%. And I think that in a way we're lucky that we are going into a reval year because it will allow us the ability to do that without, as we look at capturing the new valuations that are there, it's a good time to be able to consider that type of change within our taxing levy based on our new valuation that'll be coming on board.
And so right now, to kind of wrap up the comment that I made, is that an appropriation of this 20 million would restate our unassigned fund balance to around 17.5%, which is below your targeted 20%. But that is not taking into consideration how this fiscal year is going to wind up. So right now, I've kind of been looking at around 2 to 3 million, which is going to move it probably to about 18.9%, but it's still right around it's still up under the targeted. That's why the section 16 is vital moving forward with the rating agencies, because I know we do have another school on the horizon.
Any more questions for staff?
I don't have any questions.
Absolutely.
I don't have any questions. I totally understand what you was reporting to us, Kimberly, because I remember those days when our fund balance was over 8%, and you came up with a plan for us to pay as we go, which has brought our fund balance up to where it is today. Now, I understand that we need to spend this money for the school board, but I don't think everybody really understands what we're doing here. And I'm not gonna say nothing negative about it because it's something that was put on our shoulder by the state legislature. But people need to understand that our fund balance dropped the law to 17%, and we have a tragedy like they're having across this country everywhere. These storms tearing up homes and things. Those people up there in the western part of the county still waiting to see if they're going to get funded to build some of them homes and all. We could very well find ourselves in that position because nobody can predict the weather now. And I'm not going to sit here and be the one to vote against it, whatever the board decides to do. I agree. But I'm saying what I'm saying because people need to understand. And they need to understand how we got to where we at now. And who was that speaking about the hurricanes, the hurricane that came through here? I remember those days. I've been here all my life. When Fran came through, and you can't depend on Washington sending nothing down here because they want to do away with replacing these homes and all. What is it? Can't think of now. I know what I'm talking about, but I just can't say the word now. So that's my position because I totally understand where we were and where we have came from. And I can say right now, for all of you that's here in this room, you can really thank that lady there for making the changes in how we preserve our money and how we preserve our food. Now, don't get me wrong. I know the school board needs this money. But I want to say this. It's not as easy as people think. People come up here and lobby, they lobby for the school board, get a school board, get a school board. I want to see every child in this county get the best quality education and the best education that they can get. But there will be a cost. And Brent, I think you come up with a good plan for us to replace this money. Because we got to have a plan. We just can't go up and say, hey, we're going to get this money and replace this money to the school board or whatever. And Brooks, I'm not saying nothing negative. I'm telling the truth. I am telling the truth because a lot of people don't understand it. But I do.
I just have a quick question, just for the record. Can you tell me what the fund balance number is? Not the percentage, but the actual money.
$30 million?
30 million, that's after we do this. If we do this, we'd still have 30 million in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which leaves you at 17% unassigned, which is not in accordance with your policy.
I thought the policy was 15%.
At fiscal year end, the unassigned shall not go below 15% with a target of 20% unassigned. So what that would mean is that even if the rate, so if our fund balance drops and does not get back up to where the rating agencies feel like it needs to be, and when I say rating agencies, they are the ones that give us our credit rating. And so the difference between, so just for example, on Flatwoods, you know, I came to you and showed you how the county, where we projected the bond market when we went out and sold that debt versus what we actually sold, we had a savings. Well, there was a difference of about $9 million over 20 years. A difference in 1 basis point, which is what we're talking about. If we drop in our credit rating point, we're looking at about $2 to $3 million on top of that. So to drop to 17% unassigned fund balance is going to have a lot more impact if the board does not turn around and put it and make a plan to replace it. There was a letter that I had placed on your desks last week, and those of you that were not in attendance, I actually emailed that to you, and I asked for us to be able to also look at a different funding mechanism. So because the one that we had developed was based on the student population, but as we're starting to see, you know, that enrollment not skyrocket as much as what we had anticipated, we have continued to hold the schools harmless, even though the funding policy put it significantly less. So we've continued to keep the schools at that higher level of funding because that's what we had been allocating. And in consideration of the economy, the way it is and moving forward, I'd like to be able to look at a more sustained funding mechanism. I mean, I've kind of talked to y'all about that from time to time. But one of several other offsets of keeping this fund balance low is that, first of all, you know, we were able to take advantage of the interest rates in the market. And so I think last year it was just over $13 million that we were able to capture in investment funds on this excess money that we've turned around and put back into, you know, having money available for education, because we've been able to do a lot of capital projects and a lot of additional items for the school system. We're also statutorily required to fund Central Carolina, and they are really having a lot of significant capital needs. In addition, like I said, we're looking at the bond rating. We're also looking at our ability to take advantage of economic decisions that come down. There's a lot of things that you as the board have approved and requested that we engage in. And it was simply because of a timing, so we were in the right place at the right time. But that also takes fund balance to be able to, and just to echo what Commissioner McCoy said, if we have a hurricane that comes in, that is going to be a significant impact to us because it will drop us below. So.
Understand. The conversation, you said y'all had a conversation with the people who give us our ratings and all that.
Right.
My understanding from that conversation, what we're doing now if we do this budget as presented with the tax reevaluation we've got coming up and the plan we have to do, we would not be affected, correct?
If we follow through, and that's one of the things that we'll look with the school, I think it'll be important is to be able to look at the timing of when we go out for bonds for the next school, the high school, because I think what we're going to want to do is actually try to be able to approve the new tax rate that we'll establish after the reval that will show that we're going to do what we're saying with regards to increasing the fund balance with the next budget. And that will show to them that this was a blip in our process and that we intend to go back above that 20%. It will show to those that are considering to buying our bonds that we follow through with getting back on the right side of the 20% number.
I agree. I just look back at the reason I am looking at this to possibly support this is that when I look back at the different years and I look at the different budgets that have been presented by all the departments in Harnett County, the one significant budget that got cut tremendously every single time was the school budget. And the other ones might have a hit every now and, somewhere or something, but pretty much to fund those other departments have been funded for the several past years. We talk about education in our county. We talk about retaining teachers. We talk about all the things that we talk about with the schools and the issues with the schools and doing the things with the school. But we can talk all we want to, but if we don't do anything to help it, then we're just talking. And so I like the plan that you've got lined up for us to recover from this, and I think it is a step to recover from it. But we do have a policy that 15% is the minimum with a goal to get to 20%. I think with that statement you put out there, I think that is being addressed directly.
And so if I could add, several years ago, we did in a budget proposal, we did not have the money to fully fund a school. And the board made the commitment to increase the tax rate. And so when we did go out for that school, the first thing that we were asked by the LGC was, did we implement a tax increase? And when we said no, that was the end of that conversation. So we've come a long way in building our reserves from there. And I just, I know we have lots of conversations about fund balance, but I just want to make sure that kind of stays on everyone's radar. And it's not just a matter of we've got 30 million left, let's use it. That's not it. That is the bare minimum. That is not even the bare minimum. And I know, 15% keeps going around, but it's 15% when we close our books. So the difference between 15 and 17, that number is about 2 to 3 million excess. So you've got a cushion, or it's not really a cushion, it's a play of about $3 million between now and when we're not going to be able to borrow money. So, we've got to be very careful, very meticulous about what we do moving forward. I'm not above funding the schools. I mean, you can ask anyone. I've always tried to find a way to move this county forward. But I will say that, this is something that at the time that it's necessary, you as the Board of Commissioners, you step up to the plate and say, this is what we need to do. And I'm not standing here, lecturing or anything, so please don't take it that way. But this is the hard discussion that the five of you have to have, that you are absolutely correct. The citizens need to understand. So this is where we are.
Thank you.
Are you done?
Done.
Let me rehash one issue. Did I understand you to say that you anticipate this year's residual dollars to be 2 to 3 million?
Right now,
Yeah,
but we are still getting a lot of invoices coming in.
Yeah. I realize that, and I appreciate your due diligence here because God knows you've made us a bunch of money the last couple of years, but I'm just trying to picture that number in my head. I guess what I'm asking is your best guess is 2 to 3 million coming back in. And that would put us somewhere 18.5, 19%.
Yes, sir.
So that's as accurate a statement as you can give, I understand, until we
Yes, sir.
get the final invoices in. Okay.
Yes, sir. That is correct. And so one of the processes that we also do, like, like I stated, so come back around. So next year at this time, in the fall, when we are looking to, with the CIP plan, there will be no, unless there is some residual somewhere, we use quite a bit of that excess money, like I stated, to pre-fund that capital, because for years, the departments would put capital in, and then during the budget process, to be able to balance that budget and avoid a tax increase, which I don't want a tax increase, but to be able to balance that budget, we would cut out that capital. And then we'd spend the next 365 days having a conversation about how to put it in, how do we move this county forward, how do we provide these services for these citizens. So there's going to be, it's going to impact our capital, it's going to be a plan. So it will be a plan over the next 18 months to how we monitor this day by day.
Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that we approve the budget as presented with the statement that a plan of action that they have given us.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Clerk.
And I'll just make one more announcement that now that the budget has been approved, the budget ordinance has been approved, I will have that available online by Wednesday at noon, so the public will be able to see it. And we'll have the full budget document online in about a week, because it's going to take a little while to get everything together.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. And thank you for your air of caution. Okay, item number, wait a minute.
My report.
Yes, I'm sorry, county manager's report.
Thank you, Chair. A few items that I want to bring before the board that we're excited. Advocacy days, the county management team went up and met with Senator Bergen, Representative Penny, and Representative Pike during advocacy days and talked to them about our legislative concerns. There are a number of bills that are going through that would have big impacts on the county, and so we're watching those diligently and had an opportunity to discuss that, so that was good. Good news, we did receive a community access for broadband grant. Basically, it's a grant to the provider, and they will be providing access for 351 more homes and businesses. It's approximately a $1.4 million project, so more broadband coming, and there is no cost to the county for that. That's all funding from the state and the provider. I think I mentioned it before, but just in case, Buddy Barefoot Road is now open again, and so I traveled it the other day, and it is a nice gravel road. We did get confirmation from the DOT that once this water comes down, they will remove the branches from the bridge. This water that we've been receiving has got us a little high and behind related to getting that done, but there is a plan to take care of it. Also want to praise the Sheriff's Department. They did receive a no deficiency inspection at the Harnett County Detention Center, this most recent inspection. So I do need a motion to approve the budget amendments as requested by the finance officer, including the added items.
So moved to approve the budget amendments.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Clerk.
Also need a motion to approve tax rebates and releases and refunds as requested by the tax administrator.
Motion to approve.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Clerk. Item number 10, new business.
So we received a request, this one came from FAMPO, right? Oh, you're here, sir. I appreciate you coming forward.
Absolutely. Good evening, Commission, Mr. Manager. My name is Rob Stone. I'm the Deputy Division Engineer for the NCDOT out of the Division Office, Division 6 Office. I've heard my name, our organization mentioned several times this evening, so maybe there might be some other questions I might be to help you with. This is an intersection out Buffalo Lake Road at Alpine Road. It's at the right there at the food line. Right now, it's a multi-way stop, and that was done, from what I understand, there was some crash history there that a multi-way stop was put in to address that. Through FAMPO, the county had requested a grant, and so the grant was to do a roundabout at that location, which will, of course, we'd like the three-way stop, the multi-way stop, but a roundabout is a lot more efficient of moving the traffic through there. That grant, right now, that project is estimated to be about $3.5 million. There is a match for that project required as part of that. It's a grant through FAMPO. It's a federal grant. The division office with NCDOT has agreed to pay that, to fund that piece of that. Again, we will not know till we get to the point where the design is done and we actually put it out to bid how much the actual cost of that project will be. But where we're at right now is, because there's a federal grant, we would like to take it to our Board of Transportation and get it approved with a resolution of support from the commission. That would help speed up that process. We could take it to them and get that pushed forward a little quicker. So I'll be happy to answer any questions for you if you have anything you'd like to.
And make a motion, we do the letter of support.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Clerk.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we do have some more questions for you later. Not from up here. We'll get to you.
Smith?
Good evening. I've got a fireworks permit request from North Carolina Fireworks LLC. This is for the Carolina Lakes 4th of July shoot. They meet all the permit safety requirements and all code compliance.
Make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to go into closed session?
Yes, sir. I move the board go to closed session for the following purposes: to discuss a certain economic development matter. The motion made in pursuant to North Carolina General Statute, Section 143-318-11A4.
I second. Chair will second. All right, this time, any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam Clerk.
quick. Would it be appropriate to ask the county manager to possibly get the process started to getting some information on potential lobbyists?
Yes, I can do that. You bet.
We need to expedite that. I think that's something that needs to be.
I think it needs to be done sooner than later, but.
What?
Based on what they're doing out there.
Does it need to be an emotion, or is it okay? Does it need to be a motion, or is it okay?
No, that's consensus.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Any other business come before this body?
Too late, I done made a motion.
We will be adjourned at the sound of the gavel.